With the conclusion of our discussion series on the Band of Brothers, the end of war is certain. The surrender from Germany is a reality, and Easy Company has arrived in the beautiful landscape of Austria. Throughout the episode, the focal point character in Major Winners and the respect and appreciation he receives from his fellow soldiers. We also get a closer look at the challenges in regards to adapting to peace within Easy Company. It's a satisfying ending to a hellacious and courageous journey. Aside from the final episode, we go through some of our favorite moments and characters along the way as we wrap up our discussion series with the Band of Brothers, episode 10, Points. This is an AWOL production, and you're listening to Just for Flicks. What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Patty B. With me, as always, is Mr. B Dog, Mr. Brandon. How are we doing tonight?
It's a little bittersweet.
I was thinking the same thing, man. I was like, before we are getting prepared for this, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, we've been very invested in this whole series, right? How long? I think in a stretch from the time we're going to be releasing this episode, I would say it's been at least 6 months, right?
I think it's longer than that. I want to say we started this. I want to say it was back in September timeframe. September, October
Man,
last year. So close to a year.
we're getting there. It's insane. It's been super fun though, man. I'm glad that we did this.
Yeah.
So we got to wrap it up with this last episode, which
I was thinking you were gonna say I was thinking a lot. This was bittersweet, but maybe we should delay the recording because I don't want this to end at all.
yeah. Well, lucky for you fans, it's gonna be about 5 years till we release this. You are, I got you guys all hyped up for these last 9 episodes, but wait, there's more. In 5 years.
There's more.
We're just gonna delay it too much.
It's like you said. It's like we both said. It's a bittersweet moment. This is a series that means a lot to us, both of us, and to get to this final episode, and I've talked about this in our previous episode, the last couple episodes too. The last 3 episodes are not my favorites. This one especially kind of was up there too in my bottom 2 episodes, and it's just because I just feel like they just try to jam pack everything into one episode and not giving that, how do you say it, like satisfying ending at points with it. Some of it did feel a little fast paced, a little rushed, but again, it's the story. It's not as bad as episode 9, which I'm not saying it's a terrible episode, but go check that out because there's a lot of inaccuracies in that episode dealing with different characters, and same thing with episode 8 as well. There are some inaccuracies as well. But let's go into Pat. What was your takeaways from this episode, and what were things that you wanted to discuss with episode 10?
Well, I mean, for one thing, I think it's nice. It's like a nice change of pace of an episode, I think, compared to a lot of other episodes, right? This is the mellow part of the war. Obviously, there's a couple of action points in this that we'll talk about, but for the most part, this is just a winding down of, this is the conclusion of what we've been invested in for these 9 previous episodes. And may I tell you, a lot of shit has happened in those last 9 episodes. So for it to get to this point where they're at, I think is just satisfying alone, which I think is a reason why I like this episode so much. The scene, the this, and what I meant to by a nice change of pace as well is we get some really nice scenic shots in this episode, and that kind of sets the tone of this episode because I know when I was younger and watched these, that was one thing that kind of stood out to this episode for me was just the setting of it, and it just the setting gives it a different feel.
Yeah.
Um, there's a scene where I think right at the beginning where Winters is about to go swimming, and it's insane that from where we started to where we are now, you get like this sense of like it came full circle. They trained, they did their job, and now they're gonna enjoy the spoils and enjoy, the war ending. And
But remember, they almost were deployed again.
yeah.
Yeah, so people
Yeah,
and
and
this
that's the
is
thing too, because
actually
the war you're talking and that's going to the war in the Pacific, right?
yes, so this was actually very accurate because of their stand in Europe and their stint in Europe and everything, their success, they were put on standby because they were going to deploy them out to the Pacific. You know why they were not deployed?
I do not know.
It is because of the bombings of
Okay,
Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
gotcha.
Not a fun moment in history. Um, but to go back to, easy coming, I agree with you. The scenic shots in this were really well done. The swim scene I thought was so beautifully well done. Even the look up at Eagle's Nest, I thought
Yeah,
was a really well
that,
shot.
when he's talking to Malarkey
Yeah.
and he's telling him where he's gonna be going, and I think he got Lipton right behind him and
Well,
everything. It's just, yeah, like I said, I think for me, that's one thing that resonates with this episode for me is just the setting of it because, and that's a big thing just in films in general, films, shows, whatever. Seen it, um the setting of where something takes place is always a important part of a scene. It doesn't matter what it is. It can always set the tone for what how that scene feels, how the scene is portrayed on camera, and how it looks to the audience.
mhm,
So I just think that's one part of it. I mean, even when we get those parts where you kind of feel like you get a whole lay of the land of where they're at almost,
right.
in my opinion.
And I agree with you there. It's just to have these moments where it's like you said in the beginning too, having these moments where it's kind of a closure. You see a lot of them even thinking about like even Winters and Nixon, what they're going to do after,
Mhm.
that Nixon wants to go back to his old town, his old company to work with them. But Winters has been asked to stay and make military a career, you know, and even Nixon offering him a job to come work with him back at home. You know, it kind of brings up a good dilemma too, because, it's always there. Nixon's always been by Winter's side.
Mhm.
They've been in every battle with each other, everything that happens, they are both there for each other. So it's kind of a good closing moment when you get that moment of, you know what, I did take a job with Nixon, but you also get the harken back to where he talks about I made that promise to myself all the way, back in Normandy that I'm going to find a little house on a nice piece of land and be content with my life. And it was such a good callback. It was, and I've always said Winters has always kind of been the main focus of the story, but Winters was one of my favorite characters. Damian Lewis, phenomenal actor to
He
play him.
killed it. I mean, I think from all the way from Curahy to now, I mean, that's kinda what this show was all about was him, it felt like. Not all about him, but, like, he is the main character.
Well, yeah, because you got to remember, he was even thinking about just heading over there now to the Pacific. He was not going to wait till Easy Company or their battalion got moved. He was just going to go.
Yeah,
And
and there's that one part where I forget who asked him, but he's like, you're gonna leave the guys?" And he's like, "Yeah, they don't need me anymore."
Welsh, Welsh acts. Welsh is the one that asked him because that's when Nixon and him were sitting up there, and then Winters comes up and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to go over there. The men don't need me anymore." And Welsh looks at Nixon because that's when Welsh was talking about he has enough points to go home,
Mhm.
so he was going to go home. Uh, but Nixon goes, "Well, I'm not going to let him. He wouldn't know where to find. He wouldn't know where to go. If he was put over there by himself." It's a sense of, but even then, that too kind of gave you that feeling of Nixon has Winters back, just like Winters has Nixon's back. You
Yeah.
know, it's a good callback from their times at Currahee and how they've developed over time. You know, one of the things I want to talk about was Shifty. Now, this is a character I did not have any recollection of throughout the series, or the soldier throughout the series. So when he was kind of thrown in there, I was kind of sitting there like, where did he come from?
Well, Shifty Powers was a big part of episode 7, if I'm not mistaken.
He was okay. I
Yeah,
about
he was, 'cause it was Lipton's episode is episode 7, the one after
yeah,
Bastogne, I believe. Yeah.
correct.
So,
Well, remember, they're
there's
at Bastogne
when
still in episode 7, so they are still fighting that same battle.
yeah, but Bastogne is I always think of it with the try to think of it with the character just because that's how it's just easier for me, but because I know Eugene Rowe is 6 and Lipton is 7,
Mhm.
but there's that one part at the end of 7 where, that German sniper takes out a couple people, and he sends Shifty to go take care of it, and he's the one that takes care of that sniper.
Yeah.
So he's like he tells him, like, "Yeah, Shifty Powers saved, a bunch of people that day and blah, blah, blah."
But again, it's not a
I
gun
mean,
you
I think that's really it you see from him, I think.
yeah,
It's
and
not
that's
really
when you get that moment of him going, "Oh, well, he's the one," and he's a what was that, a staff sergeant or sergeant first class? I can't remember off the top of my head, and it was just like, "Okay."
Mhm.
I didn't I hate to say it, it's like I didn't really know the character, or know the soldier that much, but again, that's no, not knocking it. I'm not knocking it at all. Um, what other points did you like about this episode before I go into what I enjoyed?
Well, I do gotta say, and it's satisfying for me, just because how the war was brought up and the abuse of power and everything, and I think when they get into the eagle's nest, and whether it be I don't was this part an accurate part of the episode for what happened in Easy Company? Them getting into the eagle's nest and
Yeah,
everything?
they are one of the ones that actually got up there.
Oh, they did.
Mhm.
And I figured because I know there's that one picture of Nixon, I think it is,
Yep. Yes.
with the
So
bomb.
that is a big thing. They were the ones that got up there. That's why I said a lot of key moments in World War II in Europe, especially, you can
Yeah,
guarantee 101st was part of it, or General Patton was a part of it.
got it.
So
Yeah, because that right there alone, I think was probably my most favorite part of the episode, just because I don't know, it just seems satisfying. They're all, they got that big wine cellar.
oh
Not
yeah,
to
that
mention
thing when Winters comes up, I got something to show you, and he sends
he sends
Nixon.
Nixon in there by himself first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, that's a true friend too, and that's just man, their friendship, and I've talked about it on previous episodes in regards to this. Um, their friendship is just a huge part of the story, and I
Mhm.
think it's a beautiful part of the story. They're there's so much resilience between both characters, and I think they bounce off each other so well. They pick each other up when they're down, especially with Nixon. Everything that Nixon's going through, but it's just I don't know. I always And it'll say too at the end when there's that scene where they're all playing baseball, which is another part I like. I mean, the final, that's basically the final scene,
That is
right?
the final scene. Mhm.
Yeah, the
Uh,
final scene is nice because it's America. They're playing America's sport, they're playing baseball. Like it's an American tradition, and I
Or
don't
like
know. I
even
think that's a
Compton
little bit
comes back, or Buck Compton comes back
of
to
Compton.
yeah, like
Yeah, I think it's just like a little bit of symbolism, I guess, in that.
Well, it also shows you too, like how Winter was saying what every man was doing after,
Yeah.
everybody. It was just a good moment. Like it just shows you, like even after war, Winters kept up with his men, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But something I want to bring up about this episode was the surrender scene when they're up there and the officer
Yeah.
offers him his gun. And there was a scene. I want to see what you think about this. And I have the quote here. He states, "I wonder what will happen to men like you and me when there are no more wars." What did you think about that line? Because I
Yeah,
actually was kind of sparked. I was like, that's actually a good like question they
that's a cold line too, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking in regards to, the German colonel?
Yeah, the one that surrenders
Yeah.
to Winters.
Which I wanna say that too is a really good scene, in regards to, Winter's character.
Yeah.
It's just the whole part where, he tries to hand him his weapon and it's just I feel like it's just respect. It's like a respect thing, and it's also a trust thing, like, obviously, we've won the war. I don't think there's a need for you to give me your weapon,
Yeah.
you know? It's just I don't know. But in regards to that line, yeah, that's just a cold line, man. Like,
It
what do you
is.
think is gonna happen to men that have done stuff that are, um, unforgivable, right?
Well, you gotta remember, and I think that's a good point to bring up because during after World War II, Germany or German soldiers were looked down upon,
Mhm,
like, for how much they fought for a cause that thought they were right, all this happening, but when all the secrets and all the bad stuff that comes out of
mhm,
it's not a good thing,
mm-mm,
and
not at all.
but
Yeah,
it was a good line to bring up because I always kind of thought it's like that's actually a really good point that he brings up. Like it's such a cool, like you said, it's a cold line, but it was a line that needed to be stated. You know, the other thing I kind of liked about this episode is even though it seems calm, there is still stuff going on,
yeah.
and you know,
Which was something when I first watched this episode more recently than I have in the past, I didn't realize that. I'm like, wow, you think that it's just really calming down, and then wow, there's still stuff going on within the episode. Um, but yeah, no, it's you don't think of after everything that's happened, and there's still conflicts within, right?
well, like even the scene where the American soldier gets out of the car
Hmm.
and notices a German officer down, and you see a drunk soldier, and he shoots at him. It's a very, like, uneasy feeling because it's like Winter says, this is not something that should be happening during a peacetime thing, and all of a sudden, stuff is happening.
Hmm.
It's such a big moment because then that's when they take him around, and I think that was another good scene too, and I wanna talk about the scene. It doesn't seem like much, but it's Spears' scene, when Spears is going to house by house to try to find a doctor, and how he points a gun at the German officer or the German doctor when they're trying to get the guy help for for the gun,
Oh yeah,
because
which
that was a big thing for him because he doesn't trust very well.
no, no, no,
And
not at all.
when the German doctor pretty much went, "I'll help, but you got to lower that weapon." He finally does, but you can see a slight
Yeah, but he didn't want to.
yeah,
Like, that's one thing that stood out to me. He did not want to.
no. That's why
Dude, I love Spears, man. I really do. I feel like he's a hothead though.
oh,
A little
he
bit of a hothead.
mhm.
And he doesn't take any
Well,
but
just
I
like
think
like
also
how he's beating that one soldier when they found the soldier that shot him.
and
I can't remember the guy who was shot, but there was an American soldier shooting at an American soldier, and they found the guy, and they were just beating the crap out of him.
he's
And
like,
then
"You can let the MP deal with this piece of shit."
yeah, like him just going, like just slapping him, like oh, oh, oh.
Yeah, man.
But something that
Or
was so unique about that scene, and I'm not saying the beat up scene was one of my favorite scenes, is when Spears draws his weapon
mhm.
and points it at the American soldier,
Well,
and
also,
every
there's that little tidbit before that too with, Lutz, I
yeah,
think it is, and they're playing that card game. He's like, "You wanna go into it, don't you?"
yeah.
Um, Yeah, you can because I think there's just so much camaraderie there, right?
Yeah.
And then when you betray one of your own, it's I mean, they're a brotherhood, right? Band of brothers. It's band of brother.
But
uh,
it's like we were saying too, one of the scenes that when he draws his weapon and everybody backed away
mhm,
and wasn't gonna fight him, one, it shows you don't mess with spears. Two, it's a camaraderie. It's like you said, the camaraderie among brothers, having that moment where, no one's gonna let any of their men get hurt or
mhm.
anything like that. It was and then that's when you hear him, let the MPs deal with this piece of shit." It was such a big moment. And it
It's a
was
good line too because he's, like, walking away and everyone's just
and
like
then, well, what's happening with, and he's like, well, he's gonna make it, and it's just a really good scene. One of the other scenes I really enjoyed in this episode was we'll go to the last scene too, because that's another big point to me. But when they're up in Eagle's Nest and Winters comes up and tells them German army surrendered, and you have Welsh up there drunk, and he sits there, he's like, slaps him on the cheek, like, "Are you okay?" It's just a good moment. Like you can see
yeah,
how all these officers have come to with this, but then they get the news of them possibly going to Japan and having that moment where it was all fun and games, and then now it's going to go back to drills. It's going back
it
to
was kinda like it was a big psych moment, like,
yeah,
"Psych!"
yeah,
Yeah,
where we're going to possibly send you out to here. And but one of the other things I want to bring up too, and this was a powerful moment for me, is when Winters is in there actually interviewing for that position to go across already. When you have that moment where he's getting pretty much not interrogated but interviewed, and
mhm,
he's flashbacking. So when he goes back to D-Day, part two or day two kind of thing, right? When he's going through that whole taking out the cannons. Then you go to him when he shoots the young German off or German soldier in the middle of the field in episode 5. And you go to Bastogne, you go to all that, and it's just him replaying everything that happened. It's just a really good, another good moment because it puts you in the psyche of a soldier. It kind of puts you in a moment of this is what's happening. And I'm not
mhm,
saying we don't have moments throughout the series with this. We do, and we have quite a bit of them. But this was just a good moment. This was a good part of this episode I really enjoyed, and how they turned him down and they told him, you need to stick with your guys. You need to stick with your men. And having that moment, it just felt good. Because then that's when you go to the German battalion, right? And when they're surrendering, and the officer asks him if he could address his men, and you have that moment. That was a good speech too. I really enjoyed from the German officer, and you have what's his face. I can't remember his name, but translate it for Winners.
mhm,
That was a good scene. I really did enjoy that scene too. Um, but the one thing I want to talk about, and we haven't really discussed it, is that in this episode, there's something different that you don't see in this episode compared to all the others. It is the real soldiers talking in the beginning of the episode. They talk at the end of the episode.
yeah, because I think then that's when they finally get introduced to that's what's cool too about it, because this whole time, it's the same soldiers talking.
Hmm.
And then before all that, when all that was going on, their names were never put in front of them, so you never knew who it really was. And then at the end, when they actually put the name, it's kinda cool. You're like, "Oh my gosh, that's him, that's him." That's how I felt. I was doing a
Yeah.
um
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah. But it was a really good episode from beginning to end. I'm just saying this one again, this kind of ranks in my bottom 3 episodes. But to have that moment where the real soldiers come out and talk at the end, and like you said, their names are revealed to
Mhm.
who they truly are. What was it? Or Lipton was one of them.
Yep.
Goranier was another. Martin was one of them. Winners. I think Malarkey was one of them.
Malarkey was one of them.
Yeah. And then Shifty
I think
was
that's
one of
the
them
one that
too.
popped hard because I'm a big Malarkey fan.
Yeah, and Shifty was one of them too. That's why I said there's quite a few of them. Um, but I liked Lipton's the most, and I think it was because that was he redresses Henry V. and how he says, "We few, we band of brothers." And having that moment kind of just again, another full circle, it just really felt like really good. It was really good editing on that end. And I really enjoyed that part. But that's what I said. This episode kind of had mixed feelings with me. I'm not saying it was the worst. I'm not saying it was the best.
What episode did you I don't know, did you take away that you didn't like the most, or you weren't the biggest fan of, I guess you'd
Oh,
say?
episode 9, especially like episode 9, even though it is Nixon, which I do like,
Mhm.
when it wasn't focused on Nixon, it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
And because episode 8 was the last patrol, which that one grew on me more. Episode 9 is kind of where most of the inaccuracies take place. It is an episode I do feel a little rushed in.
Mhm.
Pacing wasn't good to me. That'd probably be my like least favorite episode. If I had to say a second one, I'd probably say episode 3, the
I was
Blythe
gonna say,
episode.
I'm not a big fan of 3.
Yeah, Blythe's episode, kinda again, another one with inaccuracies, quite a bit of them. But it was still decent. I would never say it wasn't a bad episode. No episode in this series is bad. I just feel like
No.
some pacing mechanisms could have been a lot better, and a lot
Mhm.
of inaccuracies could have been fixed. That's was my doubt. What about you? What would you said
Well,
3?
one thing I came out of this, feeling like, "Oh, wow, this episode was a lot more interesting than I used to think it was." Like, I was never a big fan of Kirahi
Yeah,
in
I know.
episode 1.
I know, you said that.
I never liked it, and I think it's because I was 1 action right out the gate, and it does not give you any action out the gate. It's just them training for it, and I think that's just I think because we started when we did this, it made me appreciate it a lot more just because it's sowing the seeds for what's to come.
Yeah,
It's getting you established with everyone in the show for the most part.
yeah.
And then, the beginning of character development.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I think watching this with you has allowed me to kinda see different things in a different light.
Yeah.
Um, Now here's the other question to you too. Which one would you actually say you actually like the most?
Um man,
Because I have 2.
I got t I got 2 also. I wonder if it's gonna be the same ones.
I'll show my one because I don't think this will be one of yours.
Probably not.
6,
Oh, yeah, well,
Eugene.
actually it is. It
Oh,
is.
you did like Eugene Rose episode.
Yeah, I did. I like 6 and 7 because I like Lipton as well. I'm a big Lipton fan.
I 7 grew on me. I'm not saying I think that was my other problem with 7 is that there was another inaccuracy in that episode with um Lieutenant Dyke, but it didn't bug me as much, like as compared
Mhm.
to some other stuff that happens later on. But Eugene Bros episode, I think it just puts you in a different light. Somebody that we haven't seen a lot of. And from a medic point of view, and I'm a sucker for medics in combat films and movies. One of my favorite war movies of all time is Hacksaw Ridge. Having that moment where it's Eugene talking about not only the horrors of war, but not only that, also going over the supply shortage and everything. I felt like you got a better light for what Battle of the Bulge was in his eyes compared to what you got in Lipton's episode.
Yeah.
Lipton's was more combat based. Eugene Rose was more of all the other difficulties they dealt with. And I felt like that was so well done. My other one is 4. 4 is probably my other favorite, Bull Randleman's episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that episode. Operation Market Garden, I thought was really well done. Bull being the center character, I thought was a great choice. Um, you could always say 2 and 1 would be up there, and they would be my 3 and 4 spots. Um, and 5 kind of grew, like what you said about 1 for you. 5 was the one that kind of did that to me too. 5 was one that kind of crept up, like, huh. Now I think looking at a different light, it's made me respect it more. Where it's like, I could get behind this. This is it's not so much about combat. It's about
Mhm.
psyche. It's about understanding what he's going through more and more. That was probably that, and 8 would probably be those 2 episodes where I could understand it a lot better now.
And I think for me, watching it over this time, is it kind of gave a definitive antagonist in it in Sobel.
Yeah,
And I think that's why I liked it a little bit more. Plus, it's also played by, hey,
David Schwimmer.
Ross. Yeah, Pivot.
Pivot,
Pivot.
pivot. Um,
Um,
but
no, but I just because like I think throughout the other episodes, there's no definitive antagonist within obviously German forces, but like, I guess you have a couple of characters in between that aren't that cause issues or something like that, but not I don't think any remote compared to Sobel, in my opinion. And I think that's a reason why I kind of came out liking it a little bit more.
yeah. Well, like, what was it? If I'm not mistaken, and I know I kind of watched this the other day too, and I was just watching a little bit ago. Sobel does show up at the end of this episode, at episode 10.
I know he's in 9, or what is he in?
I thought he
He's
was
like
in
he's
10 because they were in the car out there in the field when they were playing baseball, and he walked by them, and then he goes, "Respect the man, not the ring," or "Respect the ring, not
That's
the man."
true, yeah, so yeah, exactly.
And then that's when Sobel, and he salutes him. But it's kind of like
Such a
another
good moment.
bittersweet moment because again,
I love that shit. Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
it's perfect.
again, you expected that out of them. Now he's expecting it out of you, kind of
Mm,
thing. And it's a good moment. Like, again, I know they said like Sobel was not really well respected overall, but even when they talked about doing reunions with them and everything, he would not show up. But it's it's still a good series. I recommend doing this. I've had a blast going through this. It allowed me to go back through a series and actually evaluate it in a different perspective, not just in history perspectives, but also a perspective of watching a movie or a show. And seeing it in a different light, it's allowed me to kind of go, okay, I could actually understand this a lot better.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah, I agree too because what's nice is I think this story was and in fully, I think it was paced perfectly
Yes.
for the most part. Obviously, you said there was a couple episodes that didn't seem paced within the episode, but I would say as a whole, I think it paced pretty well.
Yeah, I agree with you 110% there. But I think this is a great way to kind of go out of the episode. I think this is a great way to kind of end out this series. But fans, we want to ask you something. If you guys liked us doing this, if you guys want us to actually go through another show, if it may be a history based show, it might be a fun show like The Sopranos or things like that. Let us know if you guys want us to continue on doing more shows. We
Heck,
want
even if you wanna pick a season from a show for us to cover, I'm down
exactly,
with doing that.
exactly. That's the whole thing. We've enjoyed doing this with you guys, and
Yeah.
it's a little quick episode that we can put out for you guys to actually enjoy something that not only we enjoy, but we know a lot of you enjoy out there.
That's a little I think it's also a little change of pace for us, as also for the listeners too, if you guys don't wanna hear about movies every week, and we figured to give you a little bit of variety with, a show, and I think this was a perfect, mini series for me and B-Dog to do. I had a lot of fun doing this, man. Like you said, it's bittersweet that we're ending it because we've been so invested in covering it, and I think I don't know. It's a really good series. Everyone should check this out because you learn a lot from it, in a lot of different ways, and I think it's very important, so
Agreed. Now, fans, thank you guys for listening as always. Check us out, J4F Podcast, on Instagram and TikTok at J4F Podcast. Also, you can listen to this podcast on Spotify and YouTube. If you like this content, you want more of it, hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and hit that bell notification so you never miss an episode. Without further ado, I turn it over to Patty B to take us out.
yeah, thank you guys again for everything. Like I said, this was a lot of fun. Thank you, B-Dog, for, joining me in the foxhole these last 9 months or so, or however long it's been. And remember, we do it just for flicks.
I think so.